The Nexarian archive would later mark this as the darkest day in their 5,000-year history. Above their crystalline cities, the massive warships of the Vraxx Empire blotted out the purple sky of Nexar Prime, their obsidian hulls absorbing what little sunlight filtered through the planet's atmospheric shields. High Counselor Vera stood at the window of the Grand Spire, her iridescent scales dulled with exhaustion. The once proud leader of the Nexarian Scientific Coalition watched helplessly as another orbital defense platform erupted in flames, its wreckage raining down through the atmosphere like falling stars. "How many colonies remain?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. First Admiral Kex, his holographic form flickering with interference, replied, "3, High Counselor. Nexar Prime, Horizon Base, and the research station on Calder. The rest." He didn't need to finish. Everyone knew what happened to Nexarian colonies when the Vraxx were done with them. The Nexarians had never been warriors. Their civilization had flourished through science and diplomacy, turning their sector of the galaxy into a beacon of technological advancement. Their atmospheric manipulation technologies had transformed dozens of hostile worlds into habitable paradises. Their medical innovations had saved countless species from extinction. None of that mattered to the Vraxx. "The quantum transmission array is ready, High Counselor," announced Chief Engineer Tella, her tentacles moving rapidly over the holographic controls. "But we can only maintain the signal for 20 minutes before the Vraxx detect and jam it." Vera nodded. 20 minutes to save their civilization. 20 minutes to convince someone, anyone, to stand against the Vraxx Empire. She took a deep breath and activated the emergency broadcast. "This is High Counselor Vera of the Nexarian Scientific Coalition. Our civilization faces extinction at the hands of the Vraxx Empire. We offer our knowledge, our technology, our eternal friendship to any species willing to stand with us. Please, we have so much left to give to the galaxy." The message shot out across the quantum channels, bypassing conventional communication networks. It reached dozens of civilizations. Most ignored it, knowing the fate of those who opposed the Vraxx. Some sent back messages of sympathy, but nothing more. But at the edge of known space, in a system the Nexarians had never heard of, something different happened. Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Hyperion was finishing her patrol of the Sol expansion zone when the quantum burst hit their sensors. Her ship, one of Earth's newest Titan-class battlecruisers, had been testing experimental long-range detection systems. "Play it again," she ordered, her dark eyes fixed on the main view screen. The message repeated, and this time she noticed something her universal translator had missed: the underlying frequency pattern of the transmission itself. "Lieutenant Park, analyze that carrier wave," she commanded. "There's something embedded in it." Park's fingers danced across his console. "Captain, it's technical data. Massive amounts of it. Atmospheric manipulation protocols, advanced medical procedures, quantum engineering schematics." His eyes widened. "This isn't just a distress call. They're giving away their most valuable scientific knowledge." Chen stood from her command chair, a decision crystallizing in her mind. Humanity had been cautious since achieving faster-than-light travel, carefully expanding while avoiding the attention of larger galactic powers. But this was different. "Send the data to Earth Command," she ordered, "and plot a course to the signal's origin. Maximum speed." Her first officer, Commander David Rivera, stepped closer. "Captain, regulations require approval from Command before responding to any alien distress signals. The Hyperion is a prototype vessel. If we engage a hostile force, then we'll test our systems in actual combat." Chen finished. "The Nexarians are offering their entire technological heritage to anyone who will help. That means they're desperate, and desperate people don't exaggerate threats." She turned to face her bridge crew. "Humanity has stood by before while civilizations fell. Not this time. Not on my watch." The Hyperion's quantum drive engaged, tearing a hole in space-time. As they accelerated to impossible speeds, Chen studied the technical data the Nexarians had broadcast. Their scientific achievements were extraordinary, but one thing stood out. Their defensive technologies were purely protective. They had never developed weapons of mass destruction, never created battleships or planet killers. They had trusted in diplomacy and reason, and now they were paying the price. "How long until we reach Nexar Prime?" Chen asked. 18 hours at maximum sustainable speed," Rivero replied. The Nexarians' quantum transmission included navigational data. Chen nodded. "Send word to Earth Command. Tell them." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Tell them that humanity has an opportunity to prove itself to the galaxy, and we're taking it." As the Hyperion raced through the void, Chen couldn't know that her decision would change the course of galactic history. She couldn't know that the name Chen would become synonymous with protector in the Nexarian language, or that the arrival of a single Earth ship would mark the beginning of humanity's emergence as a major galactic power. All she knew was that somewhere, someone had asked for help, and she was going to answer. For 18 hours, Captain Sarah Chen had prepared for every possible scenario she might encounter at Nexar Prime. She had studied the Nexarian technical data, drilled her crew on emergency protocols, and run countless battle simulations. Nothing could have prepared her for the reality. "Dear God," whispered Commander Rivera as the Hyperion dropped out of quantum space. The Kryvax fleet was enormous. Hundreds of warships surrounded Nexar Prime, their black hulls forming a web of destruction around the planet. The Nexarian orbital platforms lay in ruins, twisted metal spinning silently in the void. But what caught Chen's attention wasn't the enemy fleet. It was their methodology. "They're taking their time," she observed, watching the systematic way the Kryvax ships moved. "This isn't just an invasion. It's an execution." The Kryvax weren't merely conquering Nexar Prime. They were breaking it piece by piece, destroying defense systems and infrastructure with calculated precision. They wanted the Nexarians to watch, to suffer, to understand the futility of resistance. Multiple Kryvax vessels altering course, Lieutenant Park reported. "They've detected us." Chen straightened in her command chair. "Battle stations. Deploy quantum shields, and open a channel to the Nexarian High Council." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency as the Hyperion systems came online. The ship's quantum shields, reverse-engineered from recovered alien technology and enhanced by human ingenuity, hummed to life. Unlike conventional energy barriers, these shields existed partially out of phase with normal space, making them incredibly difficult to penetrate. The view screen flickered, and High Counselor Vera's face appeared. Her expression shifted from despair to confusion at the sight of an unknown species. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Hyperion," Chen announced. "We received your distress call. We're here to help." You came." Vera's voice trembled. "But you're unknown to us. Why would you risk yourselves for strangers?" Before Chen could respond, the tactical display lit up with warnings. 3 Kryvax destroyers were approaching rapidly, their weapon systems charging. "Because it's the right thing to do," Chen answered simply. "Now, please transmit any tactical data you have on Kryvax ship capabilities. We're about to give them a demonstration of humanity's approach to bullies." The Kryvax ships opened fire, expecting their target to either flee or be destroyed like so many others before. Instead, their plasma bolts splashed harmlessly against the Hyperion's quantum shields, the energy dissipating across multiple phases of spacetime. "Return fire," Chen ordered. "Show them what human engineering can do." The Hyperion's main guns roared to life. Unlike the energy weapons favored by most spacefaring races, these were coil guns, massively scaled-up versions of ancient human magnetic acceleration technology. They fired projectiles at relativistic speeds, their kinetic energy amplified by quantum field manipulation. The first shot struck the lead Kryvax destroyer. Instead of impacting against shields, the projectile passed through them, as if they weren't there, a quirk of human quantum engineering that had taken years to perfect. The round punched through the destroyer's hull and out the other side, leaving a clean hole through which atmosphere and crew vented into space. "Impossible," Vera whispered, watching through the video feed. "Their shields are the strongest in known space." "How did you?" "Human ingenuity," Chen replied, allowing herself a small smile. "We've learned that sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. Why try to overpower shields when you can bypass them entirely?" The remaining Kryvax ships launched a barrage of missiles, seemingly confused by this new threat that ignored their primary defense. Chen watched calmly as the Hyperion's point defense systems tracked and destroyed each incoming projectile with surgical precision. "Their weapons are powerful but predictable," Chen observed. "They rely too heavily on overwhelming force." She turned to her tactical officer. "Target their engines. Let's show them what precision warfare looks like." The Hyperion's secondary batteries opened up, each shot calculated to disable rather than destroy. One by one, the Kryvax ships lost propulsion, left to drift helplessly in space. But Chen knew this was just the beginning. The main Kryvax fleet was already moving to respond, dozens of capital ships breaking formation around Nexer Prime to deal with this unexpected threat. "High Counselor," Chen addressed Vera, "I need you to listen carefully. We can't defeat their entire fleet alone, but we can buy you time. Do your people have any ships remaining? Any hidden resources we can use?" Vera's eyes darted to something off-screen before she responded. We have research vessels, ships designed for atmospheric manipulation and terraforming. But they're not warships." "No," Chen agreed, a plan forming in her mind. "But they might be something better. Sometimes the best weapon isn't a gun. It's a tool used creatively. Send me their specifications, and prepare your people. Today we teach the Kryvax that science and peace aren't the same as weakness." As the massive Kryvax fleet approached, Chen studied the tactical display with growing determination. The odds were overwhelming, but humanity had faced long odds before. They had survived natural disasters, wars, and their own near extinction to reach the stars. Now they would show the galaxy that sometimes the most powerful force isn't the biggest fleet or the strongest shields. Sometimes it's the willingness to stand up for what's right, no matter the cost. Captain Chen stood at the tactical display, studying the approaching Kryvax fleet while her mind raced through possibilities. The specifications for the Nexarian research vessels had just arrived, and what she saw made her eyes light up with recognition. "Their atmospheric manipulation technology," she murmured. "Commander Rivera, what happens to a ship's plasma containment systems when exposed to rapid pressure changes?" Rivera's eyes widened as he caught her meaning. "They'd destabilize." "But Captain, the scale needed to affect capital ships is exactly what these research vessels were built for," Chen finished. "They terraform planets. Ships are nothing in comparison." The Hyperion shuddered as another barrage from the Kryvax fleet impacted their quantum shields. Even with their advanced technology, they couldn't hold out forever against such overwhelming numbers. "High Counselor Vera," Chen called over the comlink. "Your terraforming ships, can they create localized atmospheric pressure differentials?" "Of course," Vera replied. "It's fundamental to our planetary engineering process, but I don't see." "Get your ships in position behind us," Chen ordered. "When I give the signal, I want them to create the strongest pressure differential they can manage, focused on the Kryvax fleet's position." Understanding dawned in Vera's eyes. "Their containment systems. Captain, that's brilliant. But our ships will be exposed. They have no military-grade shields." "Let us worry about that," Chen replied. She turned to her crew. "Tactical, prepare to divert all power to forward shields. Engineering, I want our quantum field extended to cover the Nexarian vessels." The next few minutes were a carefully choreographed dance of ships and strategy. The Hyperion positioned itself between the approaching Kryvax fleet and the vulnerable Nexarian research vessels. Behind them, the massive terraforming ships began powering up their atmospheric manipulation systems. Kryvax fleet entering optimal range. Lieutenant Park reported. Their weapons are hot. Chen nodded. Send them a message. Tell them this is their only warning to retreat. The response came in the form of another massive barrage. The Hyperion shields flared brilliantly as they absorbed the impact. Shields at 60%, Rivera warned. We can't take much more of this. We won't have to, Chen replied. Signal the Nexarian ships. Execute Operation Pressure Drop. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The Nexarian ships, designed to reshape planetary atmospheres, focused their full power on the space occupied by the Kryvax fleet. The pressure differential they created was massive, far beyond anything ship systems were designed to handle. The effect was catastrophic for the Kryvax. Ship after ship began experiencing cascade failures as their plasma containment systems buckled under the impossible pressures. Weapon systems went dark. Engines failed. Some ships literally began to crack under the strain. It's working, Rivera breathed. Their fleet is dying. Chen finished grimly, but not dead yet. Tactical, target their flagship. All batteries, fire. The Hyperion's guns spoke again, this time concentrating their fire on the massive Kryvax command ship. With its defensive systems compromised by the pressure differential, the flagship's shields offered little resistance. The relativistic rounds tore through vital systems, leaving the mighty vessel dead in space. But the Kryvax weren't finished. Even with their systems failing, even with their flagship destroyed, they pressed forward with mindless determination. Their remaining functional ships concentrated their fire on the Hyperion, determined to destroy the shield protecting the Nexarian vessels. Shields at 30%, Rivera reported. 20%, 15%. Chen watched the tactical display, calculating odds and possibilities. They had hurt the Kryvax badly, but it might not be enough. Unless, High Counselor, she called. Your atmospheric technology. Can you reverse the pressure differential? Create a vacuum instead of compression? Yes, but, Vera hesitated. Captain, the strain on your ship will be less than if those Kryvax ships reach us. Chen finished. Do it. Now. The Nexarian ships reversed their fields, creating a massive low-pressure zone where moments before there had been crushing force. The sudden change proved too much for the already stressed Kryvax vessels. Ships began breaking apart, their compromised hulls unable to handle the rapid pressure changes. Kryvax fleet is in full retreat, Park announced, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. They're running. The bridge crew cheered, but Chen remained focused. Damage report. Shields at critical levels, Rivera reported. Hull stress throughout the ship, but nothing we can't handle. The Nexarian vessels are undamaged. Chen finally allowed herself to relax slightly. Open a channel to High Counselor Vera. When the Nexarian leader's face appeared on screen, there were tears in her eyes. Captain Chen, we can never repay what you've done for us today. You already have, Chen replied. Your scientific knowledge, combined with human military strategy, just proved that the Kryvax aren't invincible. And that's going to change everything. She was right. The battle would come to be known as the Nexar Prime Intervention, the day when humanity announced its presence on the galactic stage, not through conquest or diplomacy, but through the defense of a civilization they had never met. It marked the beginning of a partnership between human military might and Nexarian scientific brilliance that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. But for now, there was work to be done. The Kryvax would return, and when they did, they would face something they had never encountered before. A combination of human determination and Nexarian ingenuity that would prove more powerful than any weapon in their arsenal. The Kryvax returned 3 days later, just as Captain Chen had predicted. This time, they brought their entire sector fleet, over 1,000 warships that emerged from quantum space in perfect attack formation. But the defenders of Nexar Prime were ready. In those 3 days, humanity had made its choice. The moment Chen's report reached Earth Command, the decision was unanimous. The Hyperion's quantum transmission had carried proof of both Nexarian scientific achievements and Kryvax aggression. Within hours, the nearest Earth fleet elements were already en route. Now, as the massive Kryvax armada approached, Chen stood on her bridge with reinforcements at her back. 5 Earth battlecruisers, 3 carrier groups, and a dozen destroyer squadrons had arrived to stand with the Hyperion. But more importantly, the Nexarians had been busy. Status of the atmospheric defense grid, Chen asked, watching the tactical display. Online and ready, Vera replied from her position in the Nexarian command center. The Nexarians had worked tirelessly to adapt their terraforming technology into a planetary defense system, guided by human military expertise. All ships, battle positions, Chen ordered. Remember the plan. We're not just fighting for Nexar Prime anymore. We're fighting for every peaceful species that's ever faced extinction at the hands of bullies and tyrants. The Kryvax fleet approached with the same methodical precision they'd shown before, seemingly unfazed by their previous defeat. Their first strike was massive, a wall of plasma fire and quantum torpedoes that lit up space like a new sun. But this time, something different happened. The Nexarian defense grid activated, creating layers of atmospheric distortion around the planet. The Kryvax weapons, designed to travel through the vacuum of space, became erratic in the artificial atmosphere. Plasma bolts dissipated, torpedoes veered off course. Earth fleet, execute attack pattern Delta, Chen commanded. The human ships moved in perfect coordination, their formations designed to exploit the gaps in Kryvax defenses discovered during the previous battle. The space around Nexar Prime erupted into chaos. Human coil guns fired their relativistic rounds while Kryvax energy weapons lashed out in response. Fighters from Earth's carriers darted between capital ships, their pilots demonstrating the creativity and adaptability that had become humanity's hallmark. But the real surprise came from the Nexarians themselves. Their research vessels, now modified with human-designed quantum shields, moved into position around the planet. Instead of trying to manipulate the atmosphere, they focused on something else, the radiation from Nexar Prime's sun. Initiating solar manipulation, Vera announced. The Nexarian ships deployed fields designed to focus and redirect solar radiation. Suddenly, intense beams of concentrated starlight swept through the battlefield, overwhelming Kryvax shields and melting through hull plating. The Kryvax responded with brutal efficiency, concentrating their fire on the Nexarian vessels. 2 research ships erupted in flames before the Earth fleet could intervene. Protect those ships, Chen ordered, directing the Hyperion into the line of fire. Her ship's quantum shields flared as they absorbed punishment meant for the Nexarian vessels. The battle raged for hours. Earth ships took heavy damage, but gave worse than they got, their tactics evolving constantly to counter Kryvax adaptations. The Nexarians, despite their losses, maintained their solar focus fields, turning their star itself into a weapon. Then came the moment Chen had been waiting for. The Kryvax fleet, frustrated by their inability to break through to Nexar Prime, began to bunch up for a concentrated assault. Now, Chen ordered, spring the trap. The Nexarian defense grid switched modes. Instead of creating atmospheric interference, it generated a massive gravitational distortion. The Kryvax ships, caught in the field, found themselves being pulled together. Their own mass worked against them as ships collided, shields failed, and hulls crumpled. All ships, open fire, Chen commanded. Target their command and control nodes. The combined firepower of the Earth fleet, concentrated on the tightly packed Kryvax vessels, was devastating. Ships that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries were torn apart by human ingenuity and Nexarian science. But victory came at a cost. 3 Earth destroyers were lost. The Hyperion's hull was breached in multiple sections. Dozens of fighters would never return to their carriers. And the Nexarians had sacrificed 4 of their precious research vessels to maintain the solar focus fields. As the last Kryvax ships retreated or surrendered, Chen looked out at the battlefield. The space around Nexer Prime was littered with debris from both sides, a testament to the price of standing up for what was right. "Send recovery ships," she ordered. "I want every survivor rescued, Kryvax included. We're not like them. We don't abandon people to die in space." Hours later, as cleanup operations began, Chen received a transmission from Earth Command. Their message was brief but clear. The defense of Nexer Prime would mark the beginning of a new policy. Humanity would no longer stand by while peaceful civilizations faced extinction. They would act as guardians, using their military might to protect those who chose science and diplomacy over warfare. The cost had been high, but the message to the galaxy was clear. Humanity had arrived, and they had chosen their role, not as conquerors, but as protectors of peace and progress. 1 month after the Battle of Nexer Prime, Captain Sarah Chen stood in the grand chamber of the Nexerian High Council. Through the crystalline walls, she could see the ongoing repairs to the city below. Nexerian and human engineering teams worked side by side, rebuilding what the Kryvax had destroyed. The chamber itself was packed with representatives from both species. On one side stood the Nexerian Council, their iridescent scales gleaming under the purple light. On the other, Earth's diplomatic delegation, led by Admiral Helena Martinez, waited to formalize what everyone already knew was inevitable. High Counselor Vera stepped forward, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. For 5,000 years, the Nexerian people devoted themselves to science and discovery. We believed that knowledge alone would protect us. We were wrong. She gestured to the humans. But we learned something more valuable than any scientific principle. We learned that strength without wisdom is brutality, but wisdom without strength is vulnerable. Today, we bridge that gap. Admiral Martinez approached the center of the chamber, carrying Earth's formal treaty proposal. "Humanity spent centuries dreaming of the stars," she began. "When we finally reached them, we found a galaxy full of wonders and dangers. The Nexerians have shown us that there's more to strength than weapons. Together, we can be something greater than either of us could be alone." The treaty they signed that day would reshape galactic politics. The Human-Nexerian Alliance combined Earth's military prowess with Nexerian scientific brilliance. Already, the results were showing. Human quantum shields enhanced by Nexerian atmospheric technology, terraforming vessels with defensive capabilities, medical techniques that could save soldiers who would have been lost before. But more importantly, the Alliance sent a message. Within weeks, other peaceful species began reaching out. Those who had lived in fear of the Kryvax and similar aggressive empires saw hope in this new partnership. Captain Chen watched from her position near the wall, preferring to let the diplomats handle the formal proceedings. Commander Rivera stood beside her. "Hard to believe it's only been a month," he said quietly. "Everything's changed." Chen nodded. The Hyperion had just completed its repairs, its battle scars covered by new hull plating manufactured using Nexerian techniques, but she had refused to have the ship's name repainted. The scoring around those letters had been earned in humanity's first stand against galactic tyranny. "The Kryvax are already pulling back from their borders," she replied. "Our analysts say they're consolidating their forces, trying to understand how they were defeated. They'll be back eventually, but by then..." She didn't need to finish. By then, the Alliance would be stronger. Already, 3 more peaceful species had requested protection packs. Earth's shipyards were incorporating Nexerian technology into new vessel designs, and Nexerian scientists were eagerly studying human military theory, developing new applications for their peaceful technologies. High Counselor Vera approached them after the ceremony. "Captain Chen, we've completed the memorial." She gestured to a holographic display, showing a monument in the center of the capital city. It bore the names of every human and Nexerian who had died defending Nexer Prime. "The inscription," Vera continued, "reads in both our languages. Here stood those who proved that wisdom and strength, combined with courage, can overcome any darkness." Chen studied the monument silently. She had lost good people in that battle. friends and colleagues who had given their lives protecting a species they had just met. But their sacrifice had sparked something unprecedented in the galaxy. The Krivax never understood, she said finally. They thought that because the Nexarians were peaceful, they were weak. They never considered that peace was a choice, and that those who choose peace might fight the hardest to defend it. As if to emphasize her words, a group of human and Nexarian children ran past the chamber's windows. The humans were teaching their new friends to play soccer, while the Nexarian children were showing off their ability to change the color of their scales. Already, the next generation was growing up together, learning from each other's strengths. What happens now? Rivera asked. Chen turned to watch a Nexarian research vessel, newly equipped with defensive systems, launching from the spaceport. Its mission was to terraform a world for refugees from other systems threatened by aggressive empires. Behind it, an Earth destroyer provided escort. Now, she answered, we show the galaxy what happens when humanity's determination meets Nexarian innovation. We show them that standing up for what's right isn't just morally correct. It's also smart strategy. The alliance formed that day would indeed change everything. Within a decade, the Human-Nexarian alliance would become the foundation of a larger coalition of species dedicated to protecting scientific and cultural development. The Krivax Empire, faced with this new united front, would eventually fragment as its subject worlds saw an alternative to rule through fear. But more importantly, the galaxy learned a crucial lesson. Sometimes the most powerful force isn't the biggest fleet or the most advanced weapons. Sometimes it's the willingness of different peoples to stand together, combining their strengths and protecting each other's right to choose their own path among the stars. Captain Sarah Chen would go on to command the first joint human-Nexarian defense fleet, her name becoming legendary in both cultures. But when asked years later about her decision to answer that first distress call, she always gave the same simple answer. We came because it was right. We stayed because we found something worth fighting for, a future where strength protects wisdom, and wisdom guides strength. Everything else just followed naturally from that.